To the Housing Subcommittee for Tuesday 10th of September. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be recorded and that the recording will subsequently be available for public listening. Do we have any apologies?
Chairman, apologies from Brian Collins and Patsy Gilroy, and I assume Councillor Nicholson are substituting for Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest? That is no. As members are fully aware, there is a PHES meeting that is currently suspended. Do members wish to adjourn this meeting till after the finish of PHES, or do we just go ahead and take this one item of business? Councillor Lever?
Given that it's a single item, then I think we may as well just continue.
I quite agree.
I know, you're confusing me.
I'll move to item 3, Strategic Housing Investment Plan.
You could substitute for Patsy.
13-14, 17-18, changes to the benchmark subsidy rate. Report by Director, Chief Executive Service, Community Customer Services. I believe you'll be speaking to this. Sure. Mr Lynch, is there anything to add to the report?
Thanks, Chair. Nothing to add to the report. Happy to take any member questions. Thank you.
Sorry, is there any questions regarding the report? Councillor Lever.
Just for clarification, because of the increase in the per unit, the grant subsidy from 43 to 59,000, that effectively makes it more feasible for RSLs to build the houses in the first place. But because the overall grant hasn't increased as much, well, it's only been increased by 1.627. That actually means we're going to have to defer building some of the houses until such times as we find additional funding for those. Is that correct?
Thanks, Chair. Essentially, that is correct, Councillor Lever. What the Scottish Government have done is respond to a short life working group that was set up by the Minister looking at subsidy levels across the sector. That short life working group reported to say for big sections of the programme across Scotland, subsidy rates of 43,000 would be unaffordable for RSLs and councils, and that needed to be changed. The subsidy levels increased by 16,000, or about 36%, but the increase in the resource planning assumption for the SHIP to support that is significantly less, so we've now got a funding gap. The advice from the Scottish Government is not to look at amending the SHIP, so don't look at this stage to take projects out that have been previously agreed, and through the 5-year plan, they would work with us and the providers to try and secure the funding to deliver the full programme. So essentially what we're saying is now, from a position we reported in July, where we had a £2 million contingency, we're now looking at a 7.9 million overcommitment, but the Scottish Government are relatively comfortable with that because it's a 5-year plan, and they're saying that there'll be ways to manage it going forward. So it's basically just for members to reconfirm the SHIP with the additions of 2.4 and 2.5. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Peacock.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I understand the reasoning behind it with the different financial implications that have been put on us by this. But I just have a couple of points to make. With the identified SHIP that we have at the moment and the papers we have in front of us, up to 2016, there are 47 properties in the east of the region scheduled to be built, compared to 204 properties in the rest of the region. And therefore, with as is in the recommendations here, to put back the Gretna plan for 30 properties, that's been put back to the end of the SHIP plan now, towards the back end of the 5-year plan. I have a bit of an issue with this, because this was a project that, again, is desperately needed within the Gretna area and the east of the region. The property has again been put back for another period, and I'd just like some sort of comments on that as to why it was decided that this particular project would be put back as well as the Johnson Bridge one. And as well to that, on 3.8 of the papers there, with regard to the usage of the second homes council tax income for the particular needs and amenity housing, I just have a bit of a concern that the money is raised from that particular second homes council tax is going to be sufficient, because we did agree to use up to £500,000 of that in previous housing subcommittee meetings towards a loft insulation programme. And I'd just like confirmation that the figures are there from this particular revenue aspect, and we're not overloading that particular aspect of it.
Thanks, Chair. In relation to the first question, the Johnson Bridge and Gretna projects, it was through discussion with DGHP as the developing RSL. They're keen, obviously, to complete the neighbourhood renewal programme, which is currently on site. For them, both in terms of strategic and operational priorities, they need to build out the rest of North West Dumfries. The Johnson Bridge and Gretna sites, they think, will require that level of lead-in time anyway. So we probably got the timing wrong in the first submission. So they were saying, can we review that? That gives us a bit more time to look at building out the North West Dumfries scheme without losing Johnson Bridge and Gretna. But it's not that we've pushed it back against the RSL's wishes. It was in consultation with them that they said that was a realistic timescale for both those projects. In relation to the use of the council tax, second homes money, it's correct that the subcommittee previously agreed £500,000, but that was for the Greener Homes Fund. It wasn't just for insulation measures. It was to build in energy efficiency for the new build schemes. That continues to be rolled out, and we can confirm that there is sufficient funds available to also look at developing this new proposal about providing revenue support for the specialist housing provision to support the amenity schemes. So there is sufficient funds available and going forward. The amount of revenue we get through that fund is about £980,000 per annum. So there is sufficient to meet the needs that we've identified.
Councillor Geddes.
Just in the back of what Mr Lynch said there, Chairman, if I understood him correctly, or if I heard him correctly, talking about RSLs, and lead-in times, etc. I take it that, the ultimate criterion, Chairman, is the need, as it were, and the demand and the justification for housing at various locations in the region. And I think that we as Strategic Housing Authority are entitled to say that that is the ultimate criterion or set of criteria. And, with respect to RSLs, it's not about their convenience. And I hope I've picked you up wrongly, John. I would hope there is no inference in that. It's not a case of the deliverer wagging, the sort of, the tail of the dog, if I can put it that way. I'd be grateful for a response and a clarification, Chairman.
Thanks, Chair. Happy to clarify. I certainly didn't mean to suggest it was for the RSL's convenience. It was much more to do with the required lead-in time to secure the land, to undertake feasibilities, to build up the detail of the scheme. The kind of technical lead-in time required to develop these projects fits operationally with what they can deliver. It's certainly not a case that we're just doing the RSL's bidding. If there is a project that strategically the council wishes to push forward, which we have done on numerous occasions in the past, then we would do that, and we would direct the RSLs to do it.
Councillor Dempster.
Just very brief, and I'm sure John's answered it already. I take it this has no impact really on the Appendix 1 that's presented in page 7, and that these timescales are still realistic as much as they can be, given that it's still in its infancy, this.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, happy to confirm that that is the current situation for Councillor Dempster. We're sticking to the proposed timetable contained in the SHIP. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Nicholson, were you wanting in there?
Yeah, it was partly on that, and it's, you said the Scottish Government have no problems with that timescale. And that takes us to 2017, is it? 27-18. Now, if I was the Scottish Government, I'd be happy with that as well, because the elections are in 2016.
I don't think there'll be anything we'll add to that. If there's no other questions, we'll move to recommendations. Members in a position to note the revised guidance from the Scottish Government, which now sets the grant subsidy benchmarks at 59,000 per unit for Dumfries and Galloway, as detailed in the report. Note the current additional allocation of affordable housing investment funding of 1.627 million in recognition of the impact of increased grant rates on the existing strategic housing investment plan. Note that the additional grant subsidy rate means that the strategic housing investment plan now has a funding gap of 7.964 million as detailed. Agree to the changes to the strategic housing investment plan, bring forward the remaining neighbourhood renewal homes into the core programme and reprofiling of the projects at Johnston Bridge and Gretna as detailed and as set out in the revised SHIP attached. And I agree in principle to fund new housing support services required to underpin the development of the particular needs and amenity housing identified in the strategic housing investment plan through the allocation of second homes council tax income as detailed. I have no other items of business. Thanks, members, for attending this housing subcommittee.